This is still Daybreak, and now to look at what the international papers and the local papers have on their front pages. And we have Dr. Constance Ikoko here in the studio. Glad to have you join us this morning.
Glad to be here. Good morning, Indy, and good morning, Adesua.
Good morning.
And to help us also analyze what the papers are saying, we have in our offsite studio Chuks Akunna, who is the Executive Director of Authority newspaper. You're welcome, Chuks.
Very much for having me.
Let's start with This Day newspaper, our sister publication this morning. We'll look at the story on petrol prices. It says here that petrol price soars to 900 naira per litre in Lagos. Others as queues resurface at filling stations. Ipman faults NNPC's monopoly, high export ex-depot charges. And then there's a boom in black market as a 10-litre container sold for as much as 12,000 naira. I mean, we discussed this story yesterday. And you know, after we left the office, I think about 8:15, 8:20, I had 3 bars in my vehicle, and I thought to myself, I think in the coming days there might be no fuel at all. Let me drive around and see if I can find some. I drove around a couple of fuel stations, and eventually I landed on Adetokumba Ademola. There's one there, and I queued for between 2 and 2.5 hours to buy fuel. I was lucky at that station. It was sold at, I think, about 700 naira. Any experiences, Chuks, quickly on the fuel price?
It's really very, very embarrassing and very, very disturbing. As we speak, for the past 3 days, I've been buying petrol at 1,000 naira per litre. That's, of course, from black marketers, because some of us don't have the luxury of the time to go queue for 3 or 4 hours to get petrol. We've seen, heard several sources tell us about lightning, about weather conditions affecting the loading of petrol, from Lagos. So, but whatever it is, people are going through a lot. And we saw that a few days ago there was a general grid shutdown, and that didn't help matters. A lot of people are going through so much because we're basically a petrol-driven country. So the earlier this gets resolved, because people don't want to, when we're told that when subsidies on petrol is removed, that there will be steady supply of petrol, we believe the government. So I wonder why this is coming. And I have thought that NNPC and marketers, they always tell us that they have 30 days stock. So I don't know where the stock has gone to, but people are going through a lot. People are going through a lot. It's a very difficult time for Nigerians. Yeah,
very difficult time indeed. And I think a lot of people are waiting for the NNPC Limited to say something about this. We'll be watching. Let's go to...
They actually did say something yesterday. There was a press statement by them, and I think they visited some filling stations around the federal capital yesterday. They said it was due to logistical issues.
They talked about thunderstorm.
Yes.
And
bad weather.
One is hard put to understand what the story is all about. I mean, the number one, it even came late. You expect that the moment something like that starts, they will be on their toes and tell Nigerians what is happening. Number one, it came late. Then the story about thunderstorm is that it sounds spurious. That 2 hours, that's what you spent to get fuel.
More than 2 hours,
More
actually.
than 2 hours.
And there was a lot of commotion and fighting at the fuel
Of course,
station.
there will always
Everybody
be.
wanted to get in.
Yes,
so
at
you
the same
can imagine.
time.
Yeah. Well, let's go to another story in This Day newspaper as well. It's on Rivers. Pro-Wike lawmakers give Fubara 7-day ultimatum to represent the 2024 budget. Also, a Rivers State High Court has granted an order restraining the Chief Judge of the state and the Clerk of the House of Assembly from receiving an impeachment article or resolutions from the 27 estranged lawmakers. This was as the faction of the Assembly led by Victor Oko Jumbo at a parallel sitting screened and confirmed Mr. Emmanuel Frank as a commissioner designate. Rivers House of Commotion. Total House of Commotion, everywhere, in spite of all attempts at efforts to...
you know that drama series? Did you ever watch it?
Yes, Fuji House of Commotion. Yeah. That's what is going on in Rivers. It sounds funny, but it is not funny in real life. I mean, the politicians in Rivers State have blatantly refuse to allow peace to reign or even consider it. I think they're more interested in scoring political scores. And in times such as this, you have to wonder, isn't it necessary for the country to begin to think about ways through which citizens can intervene, such as recalling their lawmakers or doing something instead of watching helplessly as this continues? Chooks.
I don't think it has gotten to the point of recalling lawmakers, because that shouldn't even come up. The fact of the matter is that certain lawmakers announced to the whole world that they had defected from the ruling People's Democratic Party. And I think they didn't think through before they came up with that announcement. And in the eyes of the law, because it's a settled matter by the Supreme Court, there was a House of Reps member who dumped their court party in 2019 and moved to the ACN. And the Supreme Court ruled that the said lawmaker vacated his seat. So there's been judicial precedent. If you dump your party, the party that brought you to power, because there's no room for independent candidacy in Nigeria as yet. So the moment the Rivers lawmakers jumped out of the PDP ship, they automatically ceased to be, in the eyes of the law, I must say, ceased to be lawmakers of represent people of Rivers State. So I think we should take it from there. But the problem remains that in Abuja, the presidency and, of course, the Nigerian police force appears to be an interested party in the ongoing crisis in Rivers State, because the law is very clear. It's our failure to enforce the laws, that is the root cause of the problems in Nigeria. We've had sufficient cases where people dumped their parties and they were forced to abandon their seats. It also brings to the fore the role of the judiciary. There was this judge that said that announcing your defection is not enough, that the PDP has got to go to prove that the said lawmakers or the said persons, had bought membership cards of the APC. I don't understand what is going on. Imagine somebody comes to make a confessional statement that he killed somebody. Then you say because he made the statement and he didn't bring the corpse or he didn't provide the murder weapon, then such a person cannot be charged to court. We all know that the police will always tell you to keep quiet when they come to arrest you, that whatever you say can be used against you in the court of law. So these lawmakers have come openly to declare that they defected from PDP. I wonder what's going on. We shouldn't belabor us with such stories.
Well, the fact remains that the people are just watching helplessly. And that's why I brought up the issue of, is that not something that citizens can do in these dire circumstances? As you look at the politicians, they seem determined to keep playing with people's lives with all these judgments and counter judgments. And it doesn't seem like this is going to end anytime soon, Adesua.
Indeed, in Rivers State, it's come to stay. It's one day, one trouble, and when Chooks says the law, was it not the Court of Appeal that nullified the expulsion of the 24 plus Amowule-led faction and said that the Federal High Court had no jurisdiction in the matter? Or when you say citizens should recall, who exactly are they going to recall? The 3 that were suspended, or the 25 that the law is not telling us because the other court does not have jurisdiction, they can remain. So really, it's confusing for everybody. And I can only feel pity for the Rivers people who are as confused as all of us watching the drama in Rivers State. Chooks also mentioned the role of the police in all of this. Governor Fubara, when he swore in that commissioner designate yesterday, did make some damning allegations against the Nigeria police force, and it's something that the police needs to look into. He said, for instance, the alleged bombing in the presidential hotel in Rivers State, that it's been a couple of days, if not weeks, and we've not heard anything concrete from the police to tell us, first, the identification of this person, secondly, what exactly happened, and why did he want to detonate the presidential hotel. So there's a lot going on in Rivers State, but bottom line for me is, I agree with you that it's the people that are, onlookers in all of this. And for real, I feel like they are helpless because one of the structure and the kind of politics we run, the people are, they are bothered really about food on their plates at this time. I'm talking about inflation and food prices. Why should they be bothered about their lawmakers? It's the way we have practiced our politics and our democracy for a long time. It has made the people docile. And I think it's about time we reverse that to say the power is with the people and not the few that are elected into government.
I mean, talking about the police.
Talking
about the police. When you said the police is involved, well, the governor alleged that the police is involved.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we do know that we have a politicized police force, especially during elections and after elections, and also everyone is aware of the extension of the crisis to Abuja and the minister of the FCT, and that is why you would see a police force that probably takes sides. In this instance, again, that is why there has to be a way for citizens to take back their power. Indeed.
Yeah, I subscribe to that suggestion that you brought up, because what the people, they say when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. What is happening in Rivers is simply a case of ego tripping. It's no longer about service to the people. They are not thinking, the politicians are hell-bent on fronting their own expectations, what they want. The people are least on their agenda. So and that's why some elders in Rivers State have come out to say, look, let sleeping dogs lie. Let Rivers State have peace, like Shego was saying. Yes, was it Shego or somebody was saying that if there's crisis, no, it was Danny Wyong, that if there's crisis in Rivers State, it's going to affect the whole of Nigeria, that they should let peace reign in Rivers. If there is a way that the people themselves can recall their members, then they begin to do that. After all, it's a government of the people, by the people. But basically what is happening in Rivers is ego tripping. People are not interested in service, they're just interested in themselves. Period.
Right. Evolving story. So we'll be bringing you more on that as we get more information. Let's go to the New Telegraph. The New Telegraph this morning, Nigeria's reliance on 18-year-old census data misleading policy decisions, according to the NPC. It says timely head count required to generate reliable data that will address various population groups' needs. I mean, comprehensive data provides information to for evidence-based policy making. We all know that it helps us with the development of infrastructure and resource allocation. I mean, this is common sense. It's basic knowledge. But this lack of accurate data hampers informed decisions and proper governance, doesn't it, Chooks?
Yes, as long as we rely on census figures to allocate or reallocate resources, we'll always be confronted with this problem. 18 years ago, a certain chairman of the MPC at the time, made a seemingly innocent statement that all our census figures before that time had been fraudulent. And what happened? Pressure mounted from a particular part of the country for President Goodluck Jonathan to remove him. And I'm talking about Eze Festus Odimegwu. Jonathan was threatened, he was blackmailed to remove Festus Odimegwu because Festus Odimegwu spoke the truth. So as long as we rely on these figures to allocate resources on a monthly basis, because there are several factors we use, several parameters. We use land mass, we use population. So every state we want to, and I'm aware, I was in government when we held the census in Nigeria. I was chief press secretary at the time. And I know people from certain parts of Anambra State at the time, they were bribing MPC officials to inflate their figures because they felt that it's the number of persons who live in a particular place that will determine how much they get from allocations every month. So that's the problem. So as long as we do this, because we have to use census figures to also inflate voting figures when time for elections come. So as long as we rely on this, if we hold census 100 times, we'll come out with 100 false results.
So the last census was in 2006. The results put the nation's population at 140.43 million. The breakdown was 71.3 million males and 69.0 females. I'm glad that there are more males than females in the country. You know, there are some countries that always...
Is that really correct? Because usually you have more females.
Well, this is the figure of the last census in 2006. A lot
Wow.
of
And about 17 years ago.
18 actually.
A lot of countries always have more females, and they're like, please, we want more males. We need them for procreation. Anyway, that census was also heavily politicized, and we are overdue for a new one. You know, the National Bureau of Statistics, I always mention the NBS because it is a good example of a government institution that was completely dead. And when they had a new DG, he completely turned the place around. We're talking about Yemi Kale. Yemi Kale revived that place, dusted it, and put it on the world map such that you go to the NBS, you can get accurate, up-to-date, timely information. That's what it should be. The National Population Commission, which is the agency that's supposed to conduct census, I don't think we have the same in that in that agency. What we have is a sort of people looking at the political implications of their own region in terms of figures of population in the country, when we should as a nation be thinking about how this aids our development. So it's very important that we clean up the NPC.
Yeah, very importantly. But I don't even understand why somebody in their right senses will begin to ask an NPC official or NPC officials to doctor, you know, the numbers, and you begin to wonder again why somebody, I mean, would agree to do that, for whatever reason. And that boils down to us doing things right and doing right things at the right time. 18 years using... Another question to ask is, do we really use these numbers, this data, to further the cause of Nigeria and Nigerians? That's another thing to ask. But what is worth doing is worth doing well. 18 years is a long time for a new census to be carried out.
I mean, it's mostly used for revenue sharing in the country. You know, your size, even the size of the land, you know, seems very important in Nigeria, you know, which shouldn't be the case. There's a lot of rethinking and re-engineering that needs to be carried out in Nigeria this one. Indeed.
You know, whenever we talk about census, I just wonder how we've been planning, because data helps you plan.
Are we even planning?
You know, good question. So are we even planning? So you wonder what exactly we're doing. How do we come up with the sort of policies that will come up? How do we target them? We rely so much on what the United Nations and other donor agencies tell us who we are and, you know, how many we are. I listened to the Vice President recently, Kashim Shettima, who put our figure at about 230 million. The United Nations put us at about maybe 200 million. You know, and then you hear these different figures and you wonder, how many really are we in this country? You know, where are we? And one wonders, can we really get to a point where we can have, you know, data-driven, you know, verifiable figures of who we are and what we are and where we are? In the twilight of the Buhari administration, after so much spendings and events and things put in place, then the government suddenly decides we're not ready to have a census. We spent, I remember the Federal Executive Council at that time allocated 14 billion naira for that census. And that was just one of the monies that had been approved for that census. So a lot of questions will come up. Yes, we have overly due for a census, but what about the money that was, you know, doled out for the one that was botched at the twilight of the Buhari administration? The NPC has told us that President Bola Tinubu is eager. He's interested in population. He believes that numbers, you know, do the planning. And so he will announce a new date. But, I mean, it's 1 year now, 1 year plus into the administration. We are yet to hear the new dates for the census. Fingers crossed. But I am worried about how we plan and then budge and then, you know, reapply for census and, you know, looking for all this money. It's a lot going on, unnecessarily.
Well, the information we have is that there is no allocation for census in the 2024 budget. Not yet. We don't have that. But it's also critical that if this is done, that it's done right. We have to de-emphasize whether it's religion, ethnicity in our census. It's difficult to do, but it's part of nation building, because I think a lot of this is fueled by fear of whether it's domination or every region wanting to get more, and then of course the type of politics that we practice.
The need
we haven't done an
for
excellent
equity is very important.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't done an excellent job of building the nation, and until we do that, you will continue to have these primitive fears across the country, which also affects every development indicators. Now let's go to Punch newspaper. In Punch, we'll be looking at the story. Local airlines project 980 naira per litre for aviation fuel. They also met with Dangote. Domestic airlines under the aegis of Airline Operators of Nigeria want to enter into a deal with Dangote Refinery to buy Jet A1 fuel at an affordable rate. They are looking at the rate of 980 naira per litre. Aviation fuel is currently between 1,100 and 1,250 naira per litre, depending on the airport or prevailing exchange rate. The meeting with Dangote and his executives held for 2 to 3 hours. The resolution was that Dangote will supply fuel directly to local operators at this agreed price. Airlines used to buy aviation fuel from importers that import and sell to them. So Dangote Refinery seems to be a better option for them at this time. While every sector in Nigeria seems to need a lifeline at this time, Chooks.
Exactly. And we all know the problems several airlines are going through. There's this also the reports about ticket racketeering, because there's so much pressure on our airlines. So I think it's a very good one for, I read a story about aviation airline operators, meeting with Dangote. For some of us might say 200 naira, what difference does it make? But it makes a lot of difference, because airlines use plenty fuel. They use fuel in thousands of liters per flight. So it makes a lot of difference. And we also know that several airlines, just like cars, we all want to go for cars that are fuel efficient. Cost of aviation fuel is very important. That's why several airlines are buying aircraft that are modern aircraft that are fuel efficient. So at least that's one of the gains of having Dangote Refinery in Nigeria, because we can't continue to import everything. So I saw that story on the airpiece of Punch where Naira weakened to about 8,520 Naira, to dollar. It's at official market. It's really, really sad. So the more we concentrate on buying locally, we buy from Dangote, the more our Naira stabilizes.
And of course, that the higher the price of the fuel, the higher the prices of tickets, it would definitely impact it. And we're being told by Dangote spokesperson that this aviation fuel is produced locally by the refinery.
Fantastic. We've talked here, several times about the back and forth between Dangote, his refinery now coming on stream, IOCs, refineries, and the fact that they're selling to him costly. If this can be actualized, now you'll also think about not just, Chicks was talking about the airlines themselves, the people who are operating it, the business people there. But then how does this dovetail or reflect on the people who are, when you're going to have to pay 300,000 Naira one trip. That's crazy. It's just crazy. So fine if this agreement with Dangote works out, and then it should dovetail or reflect on what the people pay in transportation. That will be all right.
But we also wonder how long this will continue. It depends on if Dangote continues to produce this aviation fuel locally. We do know that he imports some petrol from the United States of America. in the long run, it is a business that is set up to make profit. Adesua.
Well, we'll take the good news for as long as it lasts. I think we deserve that much,
Yes.
you know. But in the meantime, I mean, we are assured of quality. We are assured that, I mean, this is here in Nigeria. So, like Indy said, it's common sense, hopefully, that it reflects on prices, because we've seen the hike in prices when it comes to tickets and the aviation sector. If they're going to buy this locally, it's, I mean, common economic sense that we will save some cost, or the buyers will save some cost, and that will reflect, you know, in the tickets we buy. So for as long as this will happen, Dr. Constance Coco, we will hug it. We will hold on to it.
You're really hugging it.
We need it.
But Constance,
We
you know, while we discuss this, you know, a flight from Lagos to Abuja, or Abuja to Lagos, sometimes was about 50,000 naira.
There was 25,000 naira
okay,
even before
fine.
50,000 naira.
Okay,
And it wasn't that far-fetched. I mean,
that's
like
what I'm saying.
a year,
This
2
was
years
not
ago.
So we need to
But I don't think those days are coming back.
I don't know. We need to interrogate this. How does it move from 50,000 naira to 200 to 250 to 300? How does that happen?
There's so many issues, and you know, this way it's good that you mention quality.
Yeah.
Chooks, you can come in here quickly.
No,
Because a lot of cases have been reported of importers bringing in low quality
Dirty fuel.
and very dirty, bad fuel, which affects, of course, the aircrafts.
No, yes. While we talk about that, we should also not forget the elementary law of supply and demand. You know, those who, I for one, I used to like driving. I used to drive from here to Port Harcourt to Lagos, everywhere, you know, those days. But now it's practically impossible to do that because on account of insecurity. So there's a lot of pressure on the airlines, and also because of that, on account of that, prices are rising. You know, people are trying to make a kill. There was a time I traveled from, I was supposed to travel from Imo to Abuja. They said the flight was cancelled. I had to stay in a hotel. Then the following day, I had to pay extra just to get to Abuja, because people say, no, don't try coming by road. So I think the airlines too, while we talk about aviation fuel marketers, we should also interrogate the role of these airlines. You know, the prices are just simply too exorbitant.
And you know, I'm having nostalgia now, remembering when I was quite young, growing up, how easy it was to travel by road, and how nice, wonderful it was driving through Nigeria. Nigeria is a beautiful country.
Indeed.
You drive
Extremely.
through the areas that are desert in the north or the east, where you have the rainforest, and you see nature and you appreciate your environment. It was really nice. You're actually losing a lot psychologically also in the population. Even people that used to travel by night bus, you know, you go by 12 midnight, by 6 a.m. or 5 a.m.
You arrive early in the morning and surprise everybody.
Yes, you had your destination.
Constance
It was so
and Chooks,
beautiful.
People still travel by road every day.
It's just
Now,
not as much as we used to have them.
people, I mean, you have the
the
transport buses, you have this. People still travel by road, especially now that the cost of, I mean, if you're going to go by plane, that means you belong to the bourgeoisie class. That's just true. That's just true.
Well, thankfully, we see more
People still travel
infrastructure
by
come
road.
on stream, like the train networks, you know, that will also take off pressure. And once we're able to solve security, or at least bring it to a reasonable extent, people can feel confident again to travel by road. Dr. Constance Okokoya, here it's time for a short break here on the Paper Review on Daybreak. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
I'm glad to have you back. It is 7:36 a.m. We're still on Daybreak, and it's still Paper Review, both the local and international newspapers. Constance.
Yes, shall we go to Vanguard newspaper? Here in the Vanguard, federal government opts for duty-free imports of rice, wheat, beans, others. The federal government plans to suspend duties, tariffs, and taxes on some food items imported through the land and sea borders. This is part of measures to reduce the cost of food items. Items include maize, wheat, husked brown rice, and cowpeas, there will be a 150-day duty-free import window. In addition to importation by the private sector, the federal government will import 250,000 metric tons of wheat and 250,000 metric tons of maize. Well, we're here now. What we're seeing is a government that is trying to respond to the potential risk of mass starvation if food inflation is not checked. Apparently, earlier measures such as the release of essential commodities from the National Strategic Reserve was not sufficient. Chooks, now we're here. Something has to be done drastically, and the government is trying to do that.
You see, when I saw the federal government's announcement yesterday, I chuckled because one, it's like digging a hole to fill another hole. We spoke earlier about our reserves and our value of the naira, because it's going to further put a lot of strain on our forex. Talking about if you're imported, I did a quick check last night. 500,000 tons of maize, and 250,000 tons of maize and 250,000 of wheat amounts to about 120 million US dollars, world market. That's excluding freighting, to Nigeria. And it's a very huge embarrassment because FAO, that's the Food and Agriculture Organization, had for several years been warning Nigeria, about food crisis. That on account of insecurity, the Nigerians stood the risk of, I think in 2022, the warning was 19 million persons. 2023, the warning was 25 million, and now they say 80 million people stand the risk of going hungry. You see, on a personal note, something happened to me a few days ago, and I felt really, really bad. I bought bones for my dogs, and when I got to mechanic workshop, some people saw the bones, some mechanics saw the bones. They scrambled for the bones. So I had to tell them that it was poison, that we had to pick. But they said that they're not eating meat in a long time. I was drawn to tears. It shows you how bad things are. A bag of rice is about 80,000 naira minimum. But then, it also brings to fore the lies we've been told for over the years about rice pyramids, about wheat. Last month, the Minister of Agric announced that his ministry spent 309 billion in 1 year on food security. So you ask yourself, where are all the monies going to? It's very important because even now, we're in July. By the side, I'm a farmer. There are very few crops you can plant. Even if you roll out $1 billion now, there's very little we can do apart from cassava and maybe beans. There are very few crops you can plant in Nigeria. If you miss April, forget it. You're talking about the following year. So it's a shame that Nigeria is going to import maize. Maize used to be one of the staple crops in Nigeria. And then, you see, the problem is that we always prefer to run after lakes, instead of sticking to the streams we're used to. We like to chase after waterfalls. Imagine that crops like yam, crops like corn, crops like soybeans, they do very well in Nigeria, but we prefer to spend billions of naira on rice. We prefer to spend billions of naira on wheat. Nigeria is not a wheat-producing country, so I wonder why we're talking about wheat. Take the money from wheat and produce cassava. As we speak, corn is even more expensive than rice in the local market, in our markets. So it's a very big problem. So look at countries like China. I'm sorry.
Right.
China is has the second largest population in the world. China is about the size of the US in terms of land mass. But China knows that it has about 4 times the population of US. So what has China done? Very strategic. Because you can't talk about a country's security without talking about food security. China has gone to Europe to buy up lands. They are farming in Europe and moving the crops because their fear is, what if the US wants to use food embargo on them? It will cause a lot of problems. Nigeria, we're not serious about agriculture. We're just pumping money to agriculture, nothing to show for it.
Right, I was looking at the list, and you have cowpeas, husked brown rice. Who is eating Hawks brown rice in Nigeria? What's the population?
What is
and
I don't think
exactly, and cowpeas. And when we have a majority of the food that we eat, there's yam, right? You know, we eat a lot of yam in Nigeria. We eat a lot of cassava because the cassava is then produced into gari and other things. We eat a lot of rice. We can actually focus on producing our local rice rather than the importation. So there's a policy issue here. The last administration, it was about import duties and preventing the importation. Now we are flipping again, back to importation. And as Chuks mentioned, well, this might be a temporary measure, but in the long term, it doesn't still solve the problem. Any reflections?
Indeed.
Go on.
So, according to the Minister of Agriculture, who gave this revelation yesterday, some of these things that will be imported will be imported in their semi-processed form. So, these things are, some of these items are further processed into other things. And I believe the rice, the cow, what it was?
Husked brown rice and
whatever
cow
it was.
No, no. And even
it's probably
wheat.
one of them.
And even with, there are things you can drop, there are habits you can drop.
Yeah, did I hear Chuk say, why are we importing wheat? I mean, we are a bread eating country.
No, I didn't say that. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said, why are we spending so much money trying to plant wheat in Nigeria? We can use that money to produce cassava, sell cassava, and buy wheat.
Okay.
It makes sense.
Great. But we also know that, you know, despite all of these interventions like Chuks had mentioned, we have not seen so much. Nigeria remains a net importer of food. And the indecisiveness, like you also mentioned, you talk about previous administration. Well, let me tell you that as early as February this year, this administration, as part of measures to cushion the subsidy removal, they actually tampered with importation of food. And then they reversed and said, at this time, the federal government thinks that it's better not to import. And then we are back now towards July from February, and we're going to import some foods tax-free for 150 days. My biggest concern in all of this, why it is a good measure if it's temporary to stabilize food inflation, what we're seeing. Some of these items are so expensive. I saw a tuber of yam for 7,500 naira, and I'm not joking.
When I told you I couldn't buy it,
and I hear some tubers go as high as 10,000 naira for a tuber of yam. So why this may be temporary, and hopefully it is temporary. My biggest concern is in the standard of what to be imported. Let it not be another dumping ground
GMO stuff.
And a dumping ground of what people cannot consume in the countries they're coming from. And then you bring it to Nigeria because we are desperate and because we need food, because we need to secure ourselves. So that's standard for me.
Right.
Yeah, that's another topic, issue, concern, the kind of foods that will be brought in. We're dealing here with both affordability and availability. Inflation is at 40.66%. Affordability and availability.
Yeah.
And then, like you mentioned now, we're also dealing with policy somersault.
Right.
And then look at the exchange rate. They are going to import. What are they going to get the dollars? At what rate? And so how much is the food going to cost? I just don't understand our policy decisions. And then again, at this time, is it now that the government and the people are learning that the prices of foodstuff are going past the roof?
Right. Okay, let's go to Guardian newspaper. Guardian, Obi urges anti-graft agencies to focus on grant theft. This includes investigating contract inflation, budget padding, oil theft, embezzlement or misappropriation of public funds. He commended the EFCC boss, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, for his courage to expose treasury looters. I mean, it goes without saying that it is essential for good governance that we fight graft. And by the way, why is Yahaya Bello? Is he still on the run? Why is he? That was a public case, yes. That was a public case. Is that how you fight corruption? He's still missing.
Yes, we all know how Yahaya Bello escaped. But the fact that Yahaya Bello is on the run is a very big plus for Nigerians. Because or else, he will have been one of those campaigning to replace Ganduje as national chairman of the APC. That's the truth.
He even had presidential ambitions.
Yes, you spoke earlier about the courage of Kale, who is the head of the MBS. You know,
at one
and
point,
I also have to commend the courage of the EFCC chairman, because it's not easy. You know, if you're not, we all know how he emerged EFCC chairman. You know, he didn't go to beg for the job. In fact, he was blackmailed to accept that job, and that's why we're seeing the successes he's been recording. What I would like you to know, there's so much financial crimes in Nigeria to deal with. You know, from our schools have become incubators for 419ers, if you allow me to use that word. It's a very big problem. So it's also good that Peter Obi is calling on EFCC to look inwards, you know, towards grants related theft, because most agencies of government and most governments, you know, states and otherwise, you know, and the federal government, several agencies, they get a lot of grants from international donors. So, and what happens to these grants? They fail to declare these grants, you know, or what they do with these monies. So, you know, it's good, like Peter Obi has drawn the attention of the anti-graft agency to that.
Okay,
Constance,
so
just take us back a little bit.
Very quickly.
No, not even on this. It escaped my thinking then. In all this thing we're talking about, food inflation, government trying to make a move and all that, we have not had the government or those in office talk about cutting expenditure, slashing their salaries. Just recently, the Liberian president, Bokai, cut his, says he's going to slash what he earns by 40%.
I mean, cut all of that, then plug the leakages. Yeah, we've been saying, we discussed that yesterday. Kenya's already gone ahead to do the same. So, you know, it's rests on our public leaders. And I think a lot of people will say they're having a ball, to use, if I may use that word, and it's no longer acceptable to quite a number of Nigerians.
Did you say you were looking for Yaya Bello? Did you not say the last time that the courts should come and try him in Kogi State? I mean,
Interpol has placed him on the watch list.
Shouldn't have been. If it's confident to say come and try me in Kogi, does it then not imply that he's in Kogi State?
No, he may not be there.
Yeah.
He's not there. He may be wherever he is.
Just
if he
joking.
says come to Kogi, I know, then he'll move to Kogi. But Interpol has placed him on the watch list. I don't know how far.
Yahaya Bello is the former governor of Kogi State. Let's go to the international headlines and see what we have there for you. We have a few minutes left. And so we have the Daily Telegraph that we'll be looking at this morning. Go ahead and challenge me, says Biden, as he defies calls to step down. President Biden is fighting for his political life. He was even quoted as saying that only Lord Almighty can tell him to stand down. I quote him, if the Lord Almighty said, Joe, get out of the race, then I would get out of the race. But the Lord Almighty is not coming down, he said in an interview with ABC News. Wow. President Joe Biden has gone spiritual. But on a serious note, Democrats are seriously breaking ranks over this issue. It's not a good look for the party late in the day. Chooks, very quickly.
Yes, I didn't know that Americans also plagiarize statements by Nigerians. In 2003, when the pressure was mounted on Obasanjo to declare if he was going to contest for second time or not, he said he was waiting on God. So Biden also is waiting on God. But, you know, like you said, Democrats are very, very worried. There's an upcoming NATO summit. So people are watching that to see how Biden will behave there. You know, at 81, it shows that we have more honorable Africans. Nelson Mandela at 81, you know, he had the option of running for second term, and he was very, very popular at the time. But he said no, he will only do one term. So this sit-tight syndrome is not only about the African countries. We also see that even in the Western world, you know, power is very sweet, and people want to cling to power at all costs.
I mean, he says that it's driving him nuts, and, you know, the conversation, I guess, is also driving everybody else in the Democratic Party nuts. There have been suggestions of who are capable to replace him, but, you know, the buck stops at the table of the Democrats. They have to decide before, is it November, the elections, or December? They have to decide before then what to do with their candidate. And let's go to the Daily Graphic from Ghana. 2024 elections, police on alert to troublemakers. This is in relation to the upcoming elections in Ghana. The Ghanaian Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, warned of a crackdown on persons contemplating travel during the election. He says the police will be highly professional but will not hesitate to deal swiftly with troublemakers within the confines of the law. Chooks, sounds like Nigeria. Police, yes. Army involved in elections quickly.
You remember a few days ago, you upbraided me for saying what's wrong with being black. But see, the same story. You know, every time elections are in Africa, most parts of Africa, it's war. They see it as war. So why would the police be warning troublemakers? Because, of course, you know, they sense that there'll be trouble. You know, a lot of people want to rig elections. It's the same problem. You know, we have to really sit down to ask ourselves what we want in Africa. You know, this kind of democracy. This kind of democracy we want. So, you know, it's playing out in Ghana. Ghana we see as the poster boy of democracy in at least West Africa. We see what's going on there. We
really have to get to a stage where elections are no big deal. People can easily go to the polls, cast your vote. You're not afraid of being attacked by the opposition, by people, you know, that are snatching ballot boxes or criminals. It takes a lot of work to get to that, and it also takes a lot of reforms. Any reflections on that? Do you see, how soon do you see that happening?
Prediction. I'm not clairvoyant. But what I can say is all this borders on one thing: trust. The people, the system has to be rejigged in such a way that people can trust the process of electing their leaders. Until that is done, we'll keep on going around. Just to piggyback a little bit, what Biden is going through now, Obama went through it a second term. They told him to step down for Hillary. He went ahead and won.
Yeah, but Obama was much younger.
But but they cried for him. He was younger, and they were still telling him to step down. He still went ahead and won.
I don't think that the circumstances are the same, but very quickly, to the African election, I think that it begins with the office itself. When we begin to de-stress and de-emphasize, you know, how juicy political offices are. And then secondly, we look at the recruitment process of those who get into office. Then we can begin to have the process that brings them into office that is less tense. In France, where there were elections recently, the police were also on standby because they thought there would be a breakout of law and order, breakdown of law and order because of the far right, you know, and all they've been garnering. But it turned out to be celebrations on the streets. And then the police, you know, were just onlookers and ensuring that, you know, the parties went on well. So for the reverse in African situation, like I said, is the offices, the process of getting our leaders and all of that. And then very quickly, let me touch on Biden. I think that Biden is very desperate. It's become, Democrats in general, as a party, have become they've entered panic mode. Imagine President Biden calling into MSNBC yesterday. It reminded me so much of Trump. You know how President Trump would call into Fox shows, you know, and just be blabbing and talking, you know, and boasting. That was what Biden reminded me of yesterday when he called into MSNBC. But again, did he really help the skeptics? Because the skeptics who watched the debates were that he's not as lucid as he used to be, he's incoherent, and then you call into a morning show where they can't see you. You could have been reading from a paper.
But since then, he's held talks and he's been,
in more controlled environments, with teleprompters, with guides. Like Chuk said,
just like you're saying,
at the NATO summit today, we will see how he performs.
Just like what you're doing now, you know, it's a panic thing, and some people just want him out. Well, we watch out and see what America gives.
Let's focus on our country. We have
where people are trying to get food to eat, you know. Yeah, that's true. I mean, where people are. I mean, I was saying the other day to Adesua that she was the one saying that yam cost 7,000.
500, 7.5.
Oh, not even 7,000.
Yes.
Tuba.
Yes.
A medium-sized tuba.
7,500.
And do you know the change that we're all looking for starts with us?
Yes.
That saying is true. Because when you look at our country, you see everyone is waiting to get a chance. And then when you get a chance, what do you do with that? So the change that we want to see with the police, I was at a fuel station yesterday, I said, for over 2 hours. One person or a couple of people went the other way around and came through the wrong way and wanted to bust into the police station. And then one of them was able to get in. So, you know,
That
Every
always
one of
happens.
us, you know, we are leaders in our own right and should do right.
I mean, service, trust. That's what this all bothers on. All right, that'll be it. Chooks, thank you so much. Constance, thank you so much. It's been good having this discussion. Well, that's it on Daybreak. Next is the morning show. I am Ndi Amugu, thanking you for watching.
I am Adesu Moran. Have a fantastic day ahead.